talking today about the topic control. Let's first understand what is control, or why does one control. So what control is it's a face of our ego. So then we need to first understand what is the role of the ego, right? What is this face of the ego that is showing up, and why is it showing up? So basically our ego is there to protect the inner wound that is there inside us. That's the inner child, which is called as the primal wound, which has happened sometime in childhood. We don't even know what that wound is many times, but every time something happens on the outside and it triggers this wound, the ego comes up to protect the primal wound or the inner child. So the job of the ego is actually there for protection. But Dr. Shefali has compared it to the eggshell. And what she says is, it's just like how the egg has the shell, and there is a time when the shell has to crack and the chick has to come out, right? So similarly, our ego was made as a defense mechanism for us when we needed it. But now what is happening underneath this is our true self. And this true self wants to emerge, and it is getting difficult with this shell, the ego shell being there. So the whole process of our meditation is to dissolve it so that our true self can shine. So this control is one of this ego mechanism that comes up to protect us when our primal wound is hurt. So let's understand there are two aspects of control. One is when you are controlling the other, and the other is when you are allowing somebody to control you. Both are the faces of the ego. I think till I read New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, I did not realize that ego was also the passive stage, where you just let people do whatever, or you are that poor me, that pity pot that we are sitting. That is also the face of the ego. So we'll talk about both these aspects. Let's first take the controlling, where you are the controller. So if you are controlling others, and I think we all fall into both categories, but probably one dominates the other for each of us. Let's start with the fact that we control. So what are those areas in our life where we can be controlling? Mainly children, right? We try to control them because we think that they are in bodies they're smaller, but we see that as we need to take care of them, or we are putting ourselves on that pedestal and we start controlling our children. Of course we control other adults, and if controlling is your ego defense mechanism which is more prominent, then we control even more. And I think in my case it is something which is very prominent. So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about it through my own experience being a controller. Any of you who are listening who are controllers yourself know how much energy goes into this act of controlling others. And we control everything, literally the situation, other people, any possible outcomes, and what happens within us, out of us, everything. Like, we are so controlled. Why are we doing this? Because this, if we continue doing it, is going to make us feel extremely depleted. Our energy is just going. If you have self-care and if you have meditation as a practice, you're at least replenishing the lost energy. But if not, the energy is only going, and that's where you become sapped. And when we become sapped, again, we get into these wounds even more, and then our ego defense comes up in more stronger ways. Let's see what's happening within the controller. First of all, there is an insecurity, and this controlling is coming from a place of lack. So, generally for a person from the outside, when somebody is controlling, we think they're very strong. But no, actually they're controlling because inside they have some weakness, and to make do or to cope with this, they are becoming controlling. The way out of this to being a controller is to heal that wound which is within us. If you are a controller, you don't even know you're a controller, and once you realize that, that's the first step of awakening. So the question that we could ask ourselves when we are in the mode of controlling others is, what am I threatened about? Because this control is coming from an underlying fear that is there. We are scared, and that's why we control our children. We want them to be safe, and that's why we control our children. When you understand, ask this question, what am I threatened about? And you get these answers, the fear of the whole thing. And then through meditation and wisdom, you realize that things are happening and everybody has a wise voice within them, and we are not the bosses of everyone. Once you realize this, you start probably educating with compassion if there is a need, or you just allow the person to make their own decisions through their own wisdom that is there within them. So this is controlling, when you are the controller and you're controlling another person. The other aspect of it, allow themselves to be controlled. And this is also the face of the ego. And if this is happening, then what is happening? Those of you who have allowed yourself to be controlled, check it out. What are you feeling? You're feeling suffocated. And this giver mode, the giving is again depleting the energy of this person who is allowing themselves to be controlled. So what's happening here is that the person is giving away their power to another. And also there is another unhealed wound inside this person too. So what is happening? The moment the controller is coming up, this person is going into that wound, and their ego mechanism of sitting in my pity pot, feeling sad for myself, all this comes up as a defense mechanism to protect this inner wound. Becoming healed from the within through work, that is your meditation, your psychological work, or whatever. If you can do it on your own, that's great, or seeking help through coaching and therapy, and all this makes you become a healed person. Now once you are healed, you can rise and reclaim your power. And why does one have to look into these phases of the ego and liberate oneself? Because unless you can connect with yourself and gain that relationship with your sovereign spirit, you cannot show up for anyone else authentically. You just cannot. Whoever it is, you may say, I really love this person, I want to give them the best. Then the first step in that is to give ourselves that connection with ourselves. Through self-love and work on yourself, like I said, we are going to bring about an inner healing. In both cases, the controller and the person who allows to be controlled, there is this feeling of not enoughness. I am not enough. That the controller seeks power from the outside because he or she is not enough, and the person who allows give away power thinking I'm not good enough. So the whole thing about I'm not enough or I'm not good enough is the primal wound. That is the inner wound that we're talking about, the inner child that we're talking about, which is getting triggered and is, acting up, and the ego is coming to protect it. The moment this wound is taken care of and it's, soothed, that is the right word, it is soothed through your parenting, then there's no need for this ego to come up. It just doesn't come up. It's a defense mechanism. There's nothing wrong with the ego. It's not a bad thing. It's coming for defense, and we don't want it anymore because we have taken the responsibility to heal the wound. We are going to have to visit those places in our life where we started these wounds in the first place, and where we have gone covering it, and we are not airing it to heal. We are not airing the wound to heal. So all this is about airing that wound to heal. So once that inner healing happens, what will happen is we become whole and complete. When we are whole and complete by ourselves without any addition, then you will not worry about somebody controlling or you becoming a controller, because you're not intimidated by the controller, and you are not feeling sad that you are being controlled, because you have the power to speak up, the power to do whatever is necessary in the present moment. Right now, just check in with yourself and find out what are those areas in your life where you are controlling, And what are those areas in your life where you're allowing others to control? In those areas that you are controlling others, you need to ask yourself the question, what am I threatened by? And in those areas where you are allowing others to control you, you reclaim the power and regain your sovereignty. What are those areas where you can reclaim power? Where have you given the power away? You have given it away. Nobody can take it if we don't give it. So, where have we given it away? And where can I reclaim it? And meet your life from that place of wholeness that is within you. So, until we meet again, keep staying on your breath and let those wounds heal, noticing when you are controlling and when you are allowing to be controlled.